In a very kindly way, he said, "You know, Richard, it's a pity you've become a star before you've learned to act." But he didn't mean it in a cruel way at all. It was a kind of goose to get out there and do some more homework and basic training.
I would say the most wonderful role you ever got, or the most influential, was when Richard Lester asked you to be in Petulia. And didn't that start your English period?
Sort of, maybe, yes. But I'm not sure that is...
If that's the sequence.
Is the
but
sequence.
that film led to a lot of other things.
Yes.
And you played Hamlet at the Birmingham Rep, for instance.
Yes. That was a miracle.
Dr. Kildare playing Hamlet, only the second American actor ever. I think John Barrymore was the first, and Richard Chamberlain was the second to play Hamlet in England.
Well, I didn't know that when I said yes. I didn't realize that was the fact. It was a real struggle to get that part sort of under my belt, but in fact, I turned it down. When it was offered to me by Peter Drews at this wonderful rep company, and I immediately started to work with as many teachers and things as I could find, and they all said, "Richard, maybe you shouldn't embarrass yourself," and so I turned it down, and then just before the deadline for making a decision happened, I woke up in the middle of the night sweating and saying, "I've got to do it, I've got to do it, I've got to do it," just out of the blue, like David in one of his dreams. And so I called my manager and said, "Please say that I will do it if he'll work with me for ages before we actually get into rehearsal." And he agreed to do that, and so we did it.
Didn't that give you great confidence and boost as an actor?
I don't know if actors ever have that kind of confidence, but I'm always a little bit nervous and scared. Yes, but it certainly helped. And with the critics came up. I didn't know until the day before opening at Birmingham Rep that the London critics were all coming up to review us. I thought, well, we were way off in Birmingham. We were safe from all those people. And I found out 2 days before the opening night that they were all coming up, and I knew they were coming up for blood. I mean, who is this American pretty boy TV person? Who does he think he is coming here to play Hamlet at Birmingham Rep? But actually the reviews weren't bad. They were all disappointed by the fact that it was sort of okay.
When you made your TV series, the Thornbirds and Shogun and Centennial, did you have any idea of the kind of success that they would generate? They were a sensation at that time. Miniseries were the rage then in a way they aren't now.
Yes. It's a wonderful medium. It was sort of halfway between movies and television. And we had plenty of time and wonderful material to work with. Well, I wasn't surprised that they were successful because the 2 books they were based on were stupendous reads. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful stories. But the enormity of the success of them is always surprising. You know.
Did you feel that you had enormous success in TV and in theater, but that films didn't show you off in the best way? I mean, you challenged me on The Swarm, but that's a pretty good film. But your film titles, this accepted, don't have the same recognition factor as Dr. Kildare and Shogun and the Thornbirds.
No, it's funny, the films I did in England, which were not bad, like The Music Lovers and Lady Caroline Lamb, they were good films, but they didn't really make it in the States. I don't know quite why.
Richard was Tchaikovsky in The Music Lovers.
Yeah, with
opposite
Jackson.
Glenda Jackson.
Yeah, she was incredible to work with. Like working with a panther, she was just wonderful.
Have you seen her on Broadway in Three Tall Women?
No, but I read a review in the New Yorker that thought the director had not used her to
No,
fill
I
that
saw it. She's amazing.
Oh, really?
I saw it.
Oh, good.
It's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
Oh, good.
She's thrilling to see. Panther is a good word for it. What's interesting about your book, you're very frank in your book, and you talk about being a gay man who, during the height of your career, you were terrified about being exposed.
Well, terrified's a little strong, but of course there's always the fear. I was a romantic leading man, and to be suddenly known as gay was not would not have been helpful to my career. So yeah, I was as careful as I could be.
Did that have an effect on your acting? Were you always watching yourself? Did it clamp you down a bit or make it more calculated? Were you as free as you could have been?
No, but I wasn't as free as a person as I could have been. It wasn't sort of the fear of exposure. It was my own sort of self-dislike, because I grew up in the 30s and 40s when being gay was not an option. It simply wasn't an option. So then you pretend you're not. And living that kind of double life is not a great way to live your life. And I think that I don't know what effect it had on my acting, but it certainly affected me as a person, and I'm glad that is all over.
Are you relieved that you've told your story?
No. Yes, partly. But it was when I was writing the book, I had this amazing experience, because I'd been in a long-term relationship, and of course with my friends and everything, everybody knew. I mean, it was hardly a secret in my life. But I still had these residual self-doubts and fears, and thought there was something, basically pretty wrong with me. And I was writing in this, I had this little room in a little house we had on the beach on Oahu. And I was writing this book, and I suddenly felt almost like there was an angel in the room. I didn't see anybody. There wasn't, there was no flapping of wings or anything. But it was as if some presence said, "Richard, it's all over. All that fear, all that self-doubt, all that self-judgment is now over." And it was like deep into my heart, deep into my bones, that I suddenly realized that it was the most boring, meaningless thing about me was being gay. I mean, what does it mean? Does it mean you're a good person, a bad person, a smart person, a dumb person? No. If you say you're straight, does that mean you're a good person, a bad person, a smart person? No. It tells you almost nothing about the person, which was a great revelation to me and changed my life.
Times have changed and we've moved on, but could a young actor playing romantic leads be openly gay now without some risk to his career?
I'm not sure, but I think it might not be a good idea. If I were starting out now, even now, I think I would not mention it.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of disturbing to the audience who are, Has anybody seen Call Me By Your Name?
Yes.
It's my favorite movie ever, not for any obvious reasons. I just think it is such a powerful movie about love. Just love. Anyway.
Are there any projects you did that you now wish you hadn't?
The Swarm is one.
I liked it. Sorry. I like Towering Inferno too.
Well, that was a good movie.
Yes. Very good. Same producer.
Same producer. And he got all these big stars to do his movies by paying them lots of money. And The Swarm was especially, my apologies, not a very interesting script. But a lot of wonderful, Henry Fonda, a lot of wonderful people were in it. And Jose Ferrar. We were standing around a set waiting for the lighting and everything to be fixed. And he said, "You know, Richard, I've whored in the movies. I've whored on television, but I've never whored in the theater." I thought that was great, because we were there for the money. Let's say.
You mentioned it in the book, very revealing and honest, about your long struggle with your father, and it finally, you have resolved it.
Well, yeah, my dad was a very, very powerful character. He was also an alcoholic until I was about 14, I guess. And he ended up practically dead on the kitchen floor from all that. And that sort of was the last, what do you call it? The final, anyway.
The last straw.
Well, it was definitely the last straw. So he got into AA after that and became an extremely popular speaker. Extremely popular. And people used to come up to me in the airport and say, "Hey kid, your dad saved my life," and then sort of walk off. He really helped a lot of people. He didn't change much at home. I still didn't like him much. But he was a very suppressive kind of rule the roost kind of guy, and my older brother got the brunt of it because he was more of a challenge to my father. But anyway, I didn't like him, and was afraid of. Basically, I was afraid of him, and who likes the person you're afraid of? But during the course of a medical difficulty I had some years ago, quite a few years ago, 25 years ago maybe. I suddenly realized that he just was who he was. He just was who he was. And it's like a flame will burn your hand. This is in the book, I think. And so, but you don't spend your life hating the flame. You just stay away from it. But I suddenly realized that I had nothing to forgive, because he simply was who he was. I stubbed my toe in him, and that was it. Anyway, it kind of, the hatred left. And hatred is
in the book, it feels resolved. There seems
a
conclusion.
Yeah, it was a conclusion.
You said earlier today that you're now retired, which is ridiculous. We won't accept that. Doesn't he have the most wonderful voice? My God, we have to continue hearing that voice.
You have a fabulous voice. Now, come on.
Your voice is great. Hasn't it been special to spend this time with the wonderful Richard Chamberlain?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.